Hi, Rick. Thanks for letting me on the show.
No problem. Are you good, mate?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks.
That's great news. So you're from Singapore, Dillon. Are you from a family of United supporters, or why do you support Manchester United?
I'm not from a family of United supporters. My dad's actually a Spurs fan,
Right.
and my mom is not really a football fan, but the team she likes is United. So you can sort of consider her as a United fan. But I supported United because the first game I ever saw was a United game.
Right. On the TV.
Yeah.
It was on the TV that the first team you saw.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Yeah. Okay. So your father's a Spurs fan, yeah?
Yeah.
So you had a
Didn't
good
like yesterday's result.
You had a good day yesterday, didn't you? That was brilliant. So have you ever been to Old Trafford, Dillon? Have you been lucky enough to get there?
Oh yeah, I've been to Old Trafford about 3 or 4 times, but I was too young to remember which of the games it was. So I think I went for a Wolves game in 2011, but I can't exactly remember the score.
That's because you were so young. So your father obviously took you there, yeah?
Yeah.
That was good of him, since he's a Spurs fan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So have you been to other stadiums in Europe?
Oh yeah, I've been to White Hart Lane, Craven Cottage, the Bernabeu, and the Nou Camp. Yeah.
Brilliant. Have you seen United at any of those stadiums, or it was just literally to go to a game that was happening at the time? It's actually
No. It was just a random game.
Just random games that were going on. Okay. So you were about to say, can you remember the game that you watched? What's your earliest memory of watching United, even on the TV?
My earliest memory, I know this definitely won't be my first game, but the earliest memory of watching United that I have was the Chelsea final in the Champions League that we won.
Right, okay.
Where John Terry slipped.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, when I was about 4.
Right, you were that young, right.
I know it's not my first game because I have photos from when I was even younger wearing United shirts. So it was definitely not my first game.
Right. But you remember watching that game and you were only about 4 years old. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I was lucky enough to be at that game, Dillon. I was at that game, and it was a fantastic atmosphere. It was a fantastic city, Moscow. I didn't really I wasn't really looking forward to going to Moscow, if I'm honest. I didn't really fancy going to Moscow, but obviously United were playing there, so I went. And what a fantastic city it is! I had a brilliant time there. So obviously you can't remember it that well if you were only 4 years of age, but soon after that you obviously started watching games. Have you got some favourite players that you've seen play for United from the past? I mean, I don't mean from the team at the moment.
From the past, my favourite United player has always been Paul Scholes.
Right, not a bad choice. Not a bad choice.
And probably Micheal Carrick and Rio Ferdinand.
Right, great choices. All great players.
I was never really that big of a fan of Ronaldo, to be honest.
Right, why not?
I'm not sure. I just felt that he tried a couple of too many fancy flicks, and I wasn't very happy with him when he tried to leave United, basically.
Yeah.
So I've never really been that big of a fan of Ronaldo.
Right. Despite the fact that he obviously did a lot of great things for United, I don't think anybody could have envisaged what he was going to go on to achieve. When he actually left United, what he's achieved is astonishing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I always felt that the best version of him was as a United player, as the flying winger that he used to be.
Yeah.
When he went over to Madrid after about the 13-14 season, he kind of evolved his game to be more of a poacher than to be more of a player who influences the totality of the games.
Yeah.
So
he was definitely more of a. He seems to play more as a wide player much more often while he was at United than he has done since then. Yeah, definitely. What he's achieved in the game is absolutely astonishing. Absolutely astonishing. But it's obviously the other players that you've mentioned, Rio Ferdinand, Micheal Carrick, Paul Scholes. I mean, you've just told me you was only about 4 years of age when United won the Champions League in Moscow. Obviously, Scholes was very close to the end of his career at that point. So what you've seen of Paul Scholes, I take it's from recorded footage that you've seen. You can't really remember too much of him watching live games, surely.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of old games on MUTV and some recorded footages, and I don't think I've ever seen a better footballer than Paul Scholes, not even outside of United.
Yeah.
He was just unreal.
Yeah.
And he could play, basically, he could influence the game from anywhere on the pitch.
Yeah.
And often when you see these debates on the Gerrard, Lampard, and Scholes debates, especially on Twitter, which I know you're on a lot now, there's usually fans of Chelsea and Liverpool will both say their Lampard or Gerrard was better, and rightly so because they were both brilliant. But if you notice, every other fan base besides them and every other top player has all said Paul Scholes was the best midfielder they've ever seen.
Yeah.
So it kind of speaks to how it's kind of a testament to how good he was.
The way Paul Scholes played the game was a different level to most players. The speed of his thinking and how he saw the short passes. A lot of people, when they talk about vision in a player, they talk really about long passes. And by the way, Paul Scholes could hit a long pass better than anybody. His passes across the field, he used to hit them like an exocet, and they were like a rocket. And the recipient of the pass could just stand there, and it would drop right at his feet. This would happen so often. His long passing game was absolutely amazing. But what impressed me more is the short passing game, the way he would turn a ball around the corner, make himself available, get it again, pass it again short, and develop the play so that it would often result in chances being created for others. But sometimes he might be involved in a move 2, 3, 4 times and then be the man that's coming onto the ball around the edge of the box or just inside the box. He really was a wonderful player. So I think you've made a great choice in saying Paul Scholes. The debate about Gerrard and Lampard, they were both really top players in their own right, but to me, not at that level of Paul Scholes. And some people say you shouldn't just talk about trophies, but the amount of trophies that he won, is it 11 league titles? It's just an astonishing amount of league titles, isn't it? It's not a coincidence that. It's not a coincidence.
I think he gets I think he gets disrespected a lot on Twitter and all that, because Gerrard and Lampard obviously put up better numbers, which is kind of the yardstick which people judge players on now these days.
Yeah. When you say better numbers, you're talking
basically goals and assists.
Goals and assists, yeah.
But
what's the better number, goals and assists or 11 league titles? Which number would you prefer to have?
I'm a massive. I believe firmly that if the assist before the pass which led to the assist was recorded, Paul Scholes would have about 25 per season. He always put players like Beckham, Giggs into good crossing positions, and gave them time and space, which gave them the ability to focus on their delivery. But that never shows up on the stat sheet because it's just impossible to quantify what that pass can do for the assister.
Yeah, it's impossible to quantify. It's a fantastic point, mate. The assister of the assister, and I agree with you. Paul Scholes would so often be the player that would see the space for Giggs or Beckham or for one of the fullbacks, or even a ball into the when we used to play with Dwight York as a striker, he'd be the one who might put an accurate ball into Dwight York. And Dwight, I mean, if you look at the stats of the treble year, Dwight York was the leading scorer. He was also the joint leading assister along with David Beckham. And a lot of those assists from Dwight York, where he's just laying the ball off to people, a lot of those will be passes from Scholes that are so accurate and well weighted into his feet, making it easy for him to lay it off. Well, not easy. He was a great player in his own right as well. But, sometimes it'd be easy because of the pass that he received, and that would often be from Scholes. I think the other player that you mentioned as well, Micheal Carrick, he was a great passer of the ball. Different type of player to Scholes, and not as often then running forward and getting into the box to get on the end of the play that he's developed. But the weight and the accuracy of Micheal Carrick's passing was unbelievable as well. Thought he was a great player and didn't get anywhere near enough England caps that he should have got. He'd have been one of the first names on the sheet for me. For the England team at the time.
One thing about Carrick is that England didn't appreciate those kind of footballers, even up till now. Guardiola himself said that over the past 20 years, the two best holding midfielders, proper defensive midfielders that he's seen are Sergio Busquets and Micheal Carrick. And I think if you put Micheal Carrick in that Barcelona team or Spain team, Busquets, and you swap the roles of Busquets would be the one getting 30-odd caps, and Carrick would be the one with 3 European Championships, 3 Champions Leagues, and 1 World Cup and 2 European Championships. Yeah. They were almost the exact same player, just with different nationality.
I couldn't agree with you more. So similar. It is unbelievable. Top quality players who appreciate space on the field, which spaces to fill in, where to be to intercept passes, but also to receive passes from the defenders, being able to see, like I've just spoken about vision, seeing the short passes as well as the long passes. So similar, Carrick and Busquets. And I agree with you. I think if Carrick was Spanish and Busquets was English, I don't know how many caps Busquets has got. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 100. If Carrick was Spanish, he'd have 100 caps, and so long as he wasn't competing with Busquets for the same spot. If he was English, Busquets would probably only have 30 caps for England. That type of player just isn't respected enough and appreciated enough in England.
I think it was more because of Carrick and Busquets' physical presence. Like, honestly, they weren't the most athletic kind of midfielders, which England at that point of time were all about. Like, Gerrard and Lampard were miles better athletes than Carrick, but Carrick would have given the midfield a balance that the two of Gerrard and Lampard just didn't have.
Yeah.
It's a bit like now what Ollie is doing when he used to play. Now it's just McTominay and Fred every single time. But when he used to play Matic and Pogba, when Pogba was still doing flamboyant things, and he has improved on that a lot, especially this season. But Matic, Pogba, and Bruno in the same midfield, even if they had N'Golo Kante at the base of midfield, it still wouldn't have worked. We got torn apart by Spurs 6-1 because Mourinho exploited the spaces with Sissoko and Ndombele and Højbjerg. It was just a mess when Ollie didn't recognize it, and that's probably one of the reasons why the England teams didn't go very far.
Yeah, I mean, you're going back a bit to that Spurs game that you've just mentioned there, and McTominay and Fred came. I've seen a lot of people speak about that game where they've said McTominay and Fred came on and made it tighter and made it more difficult for Spurs to find space. And I've seen Matic get a lot of criticism. He started that game and got subbed at half time. It was 4-1 at half time, but there's a couple of mitigating circumstances. Obviously, Martial got sent off. So they were down to 10 men. That's the first thing. But secondly, like you've just said, there was only Matic as a proper holding player. So in a roundabout way, I know they had to take somebody else off. I think they took Bruno off. But there was only Matic as a proper holding player. So they replaced one holding player with two holding players in the second half. And if they'd have started with two holding players, it might have been better right from the beginning.
It already was an improvement in the second half, considering we had 10 men and we only lost in the second half 2-0 as compared to the first half where we lost 4-1 and Martial got sent off in the 30th minute. I can't remember exactly, but it was a lot more solid in the second half. And what many people discount is that at that point in time, Spurs were also, I think they were on the top of the league and they were absolutely flying.
Yeah.
So to blame it all on Matic is just, it's a bit, you're just looking, you're judging you can't just judge a book by its cover. And when you think deeper about it, some of the mistakes that the centre backs were making as well, I don't think you could have blamed Matic for Maguire spinning Luke Shaw in the box, pulling him back down and allowing Spurs player a free header on goal.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. You touched on Pogba there. How do you feel Pogba fits into the team at the moment? I mean, obviously he played wide on the left yesterday against Spurs, and he came on wide on the left for the second half against AC Milan, didn't he, as well? And I thought there was an improvement in that game in the second half, and I thought he played well there yesterday. Do you think United are better with him there, or better with him in more central midfield? What's your feelings?
Does the team have to include Martial or?
Well, that's not a party.
Because he's injured now.
Yeah, let's assume Martial is injured at the moment. So let's just put him to. I was about to say forget him. Let's just put Martial to one side for the moment because obviously he is injured. He might not be back all season. They've said so. Obviously he normally goes with McTominay and Fred, and we played well at Spurs. Certainly in the second half, we played well with Pogba on the left. Do you prefer it like that, or would you have something different?
It's very complicated. That's very difficult. A very, very difficult question. Because when you watch Pogba play for France in the middle of the field, he genuinely looks like one of the 2 or 3 best midfielders in the world. But that's when he's focusing on his defensive duties as well, and not trying 40-50 yard passes every single time. Most of his passes for France are just simple layoffs with the odd worldy ball, that's like the one that he played for Mbappe against Croatia, where he hit the ball off the outside of his boot for Mbappe to chase. But when he plays on the left, he seems to have more discipline, and he seems to look for the short passes more instead of trying a 30-40 yard ball every single time. And also when he's on the edge of the box, he tends to make better decisions than when he's in the central area, where he often tries to shoot from stupid positions, although he can. And he has scored a couple of cracking goals over the years, but the percentage is just not very high. But when you look at Pogba on the edge of the box, he has, honestly, in a footballer, Pogba has everything. He is probably the closest player right now in terms of natural ability to a Zidane, they both are similar in size. They both have similar strengths. They're both big, powerful midfielders who are brilliant on the ball, can beat a man, can hit long passes. But the difference between Zidane and Pogba is probably the decision making, which is what separates a good footballer from a brilliant world-class one.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Putting Pogba on the left, I think right now is the best option that Oli can do.
Yeah, so obviously the position that he's playing in, well, certainly where he played against Spurs, and also the second half against AC Milan, as I just said, we played well in the second half of that game. It's also the position that Marcus normally plays in. So what where do you go from there? What do you think about that?
One of the reasons why Pogba looks so brilliant on the left is because of the player he's replacing. It's not just, obviously when he puts his head down and focuses, he's a fantastic player. But a lot of his impact is overblown because he has replaced a player who's not very good. Like Marcus Rashford is nowhere, cannot hold a candle to Paul Pogba. And yeah, honestly, I don't get any of this Rashford hype. Like to me, the argument that he's 20 goals this season and last season is a fairly weak argument. Firstly, because last season he was on pens, and the majority of the pens were won by Anthony Martial. And yeah, so and this season, the majority of chances created come down the left-hand side as well. Bruno is always trying a ball over the top for Rashford to chase, but to be honest, Rashford has statistically been one of the worst finishers in the league over his career. And I don't think this season is much different. People hop on Martial for missing big chances, but over his career, he's been one of the 3 or 4 best finishers in the league, statistically by conversion rate. So
I've seen the statistics for Anthony Martial, and I do appreciate. I'm a massive fan of Martial myself, and his conversion rate. He doesn't take shots on where he shouldn't be taking shots on, does he? So his actual, even though he's not scoring, even this season, even though he's not scoring a lot of goals this season, his actual conversion rate of his shots, his shot conversion rate is really good, isn't it? Whereas I haven't seen the stats you've just mentioned about Marcus. I've not seen the stats compared to Marcus. I do feel myself as though he takes on too many shots where he shouldn't shoot, but I haven't actually seen the stats that you're talking about.
Hang on, brother. Go. Daniel, go close my door. No, it's okay, thanks. It's okay, thanks. Yeah, go. Sorry about that. My brother wanted to bring my dog in. But the thing about Rashford is that it's not just about his conversion rate, it's the technique he uses when he finishes as well. When you look at proper finishers, like maybe not this season, but Martial's finishing technique has been compared to Thierry Henry, if you remember, because it's so similar the way they pass it into the corner of the goal. But I remember this quote coming out, I can't remember when, but it was that Marcus had to go for finishing training because the coaching staff at United felt that he tried to smash it in every time.
Yeah.
And his heading is just abysmal. So why is it that we are creating the chances for the worst finisher, since Oli is so insistent on playing a front 3 of Martial, Rashford, and Greenwood? Out of the 3, why are we creating the most chances for the worst finisher? And Oli himself has said the best finisher by far in the club is Mason Greenwood. So why are we not creating those chances for Greenwood instead?
It's not quite as straightforward as that, is it, Dillon? It's not quite as straightforward as that. It's not just about when you go onto a football pitch, I know you could think, well, we've got a great finisher, we'll try and create chances for him. But that finisher is also, if you look at Cavani's runs against Spurs yesterday, the one that he had disallowed, the one that he shot against the keeper and it rebounded for Fred. He's making the space himself. He's making the runs to get on the end of these chances. So I think sometimes, I'm not saying that Marcus Rashford makes runs like Cavani does, but you can't just decide before the game starts, we're going to make chances for such and such a player. That happens because the player himself makes himself available or makes the right runs.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. But the thing about Rashford getting more chances is primarily because we are so left-hand side dominant.
Yeah.
Our left flank is not dominant because Rashford is there. It's dominant because Luke Shaw is there.
Yeah.
And so naturally he gets a lot more of the ball. And I'm very sure his shot numbers are miles higher than both the right winger and the centre forward. Cavani averages 1.7 shots per game. And that is, honestly, that's terrible as a United number 9. And Cavani himself is not that good of a finisher as well.
He's not that good of a finisher.
He's not that clinical. There was a season where Cavani scored 35 goals in the league, but this is a stat that actually it's a pretty good indication of how good of a finisher you are by the amount of big chances missed. It's not the stat that you've dispelled many times about chances created and all that. It's not every single time you take a shot. It's probably every single time you take a shot in a one-on-one position or position that you're expected to score from. And Cavani that season missed 38 big chances just in the league.
Right.
So if he had converted and missed just 18 big chances, he would have scored 55 goals in the league for a PSG team.
You can't score every chance though, Dillon.
Yeah, but the top players don't miss more big chances than they score. And that season was the season where Monaco won the league with Bernardo Silva, Mbappe, and Mendy. So maybe if he scored maybe 5 or 6 more goals out of those 38 big chances missed. And even at United, he's missed some sitters. I remember the Arsenal game. He missed an open goal from a Luke Shaw cutback.
Yeah.
And he tried the scissor kick. I wouldn't really count it as a big chance, but could have done a bit better. And he's missed, I think, another chance at Fulham. But he's not as clinical as people make him out to be, but he is a fantastic striker.
Yeah, I'm not agreeing with you nor disagreeing with you. I don't know where these stats come from, and I do know that he has missed a couple of chances, particularly the Arsenal one, I remember. But as I say, I don't think there's a striker around who scores every chance that he gets.
Oh yeah.
Even Lewandowski misses some chances. I mean, I can't remember him missing one, but he must miss some chances. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's not possible to score every single chance, but the way fans bang on about Cavani having, like Martial being a useless player because he doesn't score 20 goals a season, it's a bit of a stupid narrative considering the player they are championing for only has 1 or 2 more goals than him.
Yes, yeah.
With a similar amount of big chances missed. Yeah. And it all depends on what kind of game it is. Like if it's a game against City or Liverpool where we're going to be under the cosh for about 70% of the game, I'd much rather have a striker who can hold the ball up, get us up the pitch, win a few free kicks and get some time off the clock than have someone who can bang in a goal and not do anything besides that.
Yeah, he had a fantastic game at City, Anthony Martial, didn't he? Obviously, he won in the first minute, but he's all up playing that game. The way he was beating players as well, and winning free kicks, he was just superb in that game.
I think you tweeted a photo out of Anthony Martial winning a penalty where 6 Man City players were surrounding him.
Yeah.
And I think that photo just sums up Anthony Martial as a player. Like for 6 players to be drawn to one player on the edge of the penalty box, it just speaks volumes about the player's ability. And some of the runs he was going off on, knocking down Stones and Diaz like they just weren't there.
Yeah.
He doesn't look it, but the strength of him to do that and his close control is just on another level. And
his close control is absolutely wonderful. And the way when he runs with the ball, he's so tight to his feet, and at the same time he plays with his head up.
Exactly. I honestly believe if Ben Howard stayed, Martial would have won a Ballon d'Or or at least come close to it.
I think he could be that good. I really do. Obviously, he's injured at the moment. So getting back to what we were just discussing, would you? Well, let's say we had a really big game tomorrow. Say we're in the Europa League final and it was tomorrow. Would you? And Martial's not fit. Would you start with Pogba on the? Would you start with McTominay and Fred? There's the first question.
I wouldn't start with McTominay and Fred. I would have started with McTominay and Matic, like what you often champ for. Because whatever Fred does, McTominay can do. And McTominay is 6, 7, 8 inches taller than Fred. And he's definitely much stronger. And McTominay has a really good shot. When you see Fred, I don't know if you've seen this stat, but Fred has scored his first goal in 73 attempts.
Yeah, I heard that on the TV yesterday. Yeah.
That's a conversion rate of 1 point. It's less than 2%. But if you notice, McTominay barely takes any shots, but maybe half the time he takes it, he scores.
It won't be as many as half the time. It won't be 1 in 2, but it'll be a hell of a lot.
It seems like it's half in 2.
A hell of a lot more than 1 in 73.
Yeah.
Hell of a lot more.
And Matic is just class. He's like the closest thing I think besides Busquets, he's the closest thing right now that you can find to Micheal Carrick. And the way Ollie doesn't see that, and even Carrick, I don't get how Carrick looks at Fred and says, we have a Man United quality midfielder and has Matic in the same training ground as him. To me, Carrick is just doing exactly what the England managers did to him.
Yeah.
When it comes to Matic.
What a great point. Yeah. Carrick's doing exactly to Matic what the England managers did to Carrick.
Exactly.
Not appreciating what he brings to the team.
Exactly. And our results generally with Matic are just better.
Yeah.
And so are they with Dan James. And to be honest, although many people claim Dan James has no intelligence and is a limited footballer,
you there, mate? Hello? Hello?
If you ever...
hi. I lost you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I've got you now, yeah.
All right. A lot of the Dan James, people that criticize Dan James for having low footballing IQ or whatever they call it these days, and are massive fans of Marcus Rashford. And I don't see how Rashford has any more or even the same amount of footballing intelligence that Dan James has. James at least tries and looks up when he dribbles, turns back when there's no option on, and just looks for his teammates. But if you notice, every single time Rashford gets the ball, he always looks to try and beat 3 or 4 players or cut in and take a shot, which is something Greenwood used to do a lot, but I think he's improving on that week by week.
Yeah, Greenwood is improving.
And if you look at the first goal that we conceded to Spurs, if we had Dan James there, Son wouldn't ever tap in.
Well, I did put that photograph up, didn't I? Marcus is standing right next to Son, isn't he? Right next to him. And Son makes his run, he doesn't go with him.
Yeah, in the video, Marcus was tracking Son, but around 10, 15 yards from the box, he just stopped. Yeah. And Son peeled away from him.
Yeah.
And Lucas Moura got a cut back across the box and Son scored. If we had Dan James, I highly doubt that would have been a goal.
Yeah.
In that exact situation.
He's more determined, isn't he? And really works hard on his defensive work, and he certainly would have given Son a lot more to think about and a lot more of a difficult job without any shadow of a doubt. Son's a great player, though. We'll never know now. It's a bit of a moot point. We'll never know whether Son would have beaten James to the ball.
Yeah,
he certainly would have had a tougher job on. Certainly.
It's not just about stopping the goal. It's also trying to make it harder for the player. I mean, Son is amazing, and even if James was right in front of him, he could have bent it into the other corner and still scored. But it's more about making it difficult for the opponent and reducing the possibility of them scoring, rather than just conceding the fact that Son scored a worldie and try and pin it on Dan James.
Going back to the striking situation, we talked a lot about Cavani. Obviously, Martial, if he's not fit by the end of the season, he'll be fit for the start of next season. Are you in the camp that we still need a number 9? Are you in the camp that we need to try and sign Haaland or Kane, such as everybody seems to be talking about?
I'm not too fussed about these striking options, although I do think we need at least a backup one, because I'm pretty sure Cavani is leaving anyway. From the reports that you see on Twitter, like he seems like he's going to Argentina or something. And if we have only Anthony Martial as a striker with Mason Greenwood as backup, I'm not too confident about our chances going in. Although it depends on how Greenwood develops, because I think he needs to play in a 2, not as a lone striker. Even Cavani can't play as a lone striker himself sometimes. He struggles to hold up the ball. None of our players, and I don't think there's a better striker in the league at holding up the ball and getting the team forward, winning free kicks and beating players like Anthony. No striker in the league can do it like Anthony Martial. It's not just about the goals that he scores or does not score. He creates the chances for other players. It's a bit like Benzema for Real Madrid when he used to play with Ronaldo or Bale. He used to get slated for not scoring enough. But the way he held the ball up, took up different positions and allowed Ronaldo or Bale to drift in. He didn't get credit for that until I don't think he got credit until he was their top scorer after Ronaldo left.
Started to get more credit just because he's scoring goals, and people don't appreciate the importance of a player if he's not scoring goals.
I mean, Greenwood can play in a 2 because he can finish really, really well. But to lead the line for United, I don't think he's good enough alone. Mason. Martial is definitely good enough to do it, and he's shown he won Player of the Season in his first season playing as a 9. And anyways, why are we giving Mason so much time in a position that he's not been brought up in, when we've just spent 37 million on Ahmad, who looks brilliant? Ollie himself said that Ahmad looked brilliant in training. So why is he that afraid of giving him a run out? It's like the Donny van de Beek situation. Another 40 million player we're just not using.
He seems to be afraid to give him game time unless it's a game that's running away from us, or a game that's put to bed. If a game's in the balance, he doesn't really like to use his substitutes, does he, so often? He did yesterday, but yesterday he had Greenwood on the bench who nearly always starts. He starts so often. So it's not like he's using one of his substitutes who are always substitutes. The lads that are always substitutes, he doesn't seem to trust them to bring them on if the game's, if I don't, let's say, for example, either Marcus or Mason were injured yesterday. And let's say Marcus was injured. Let's say Mason started and played the full game. I don't think he'd have been replacing him with 20 minutes to go with one of the lads off the bench, would he? Because it's just the normal lads on the bench rather than the lads who start a lot. I think he underrates his substitutes, mate, and overrates his starting players.
Yeah, he definitely does. And most of the substitutes are actually better than the players he's using on the pitch. So it kind of doesn't make sense because Juan Mata never ever gets a look in anymore. And as a footballer, no one in this team can hold a candle to Juan Mata.
Yeah. He's a brilliant player, isn't he?
Yeah, and what's more telling about how good Juan Mata is that he has 41 caps for Spain.
Yeah.
And he's played. Spain had probably one of the best midfields ever, and he could still get 41 caps.
Yeah.
And he basically didn't get much after he came to United because we didn't really use him properly.
Didn't use him as much. He'd probably have 60 or 70 caps if he'd stayed.
Exactly.
On something, yeah.
So if he can get 60 or 70 caps playing for an international team as good as Spain was at that time, why can't he get into a United team when half the fan base is complaining about our midfield, and we are constantly being linked with new midfielders and right wingers? Why do we need to spend 120 million pounds on Sancho when we've already bought Ahmad for 37 million and we already have Juan Mata?
Yeah.
What's the point of it? You're just going to hinder Ahmad's development.
Yeah, absolutely. It annoys me the way people talk about the same thing happens to both Mata and Matic. People talk about them as if they're 38 or 39 rather than 32 or 33 that they actually are. You know what I mean? They've both got plenty of time left playing at a top level of football, I think. Whether it's another 2 or 3 years, there's no reason to stop playing these players because they're 32 or 33. Plenty of players are playing at 35, 36, 37.
Real Madrid just beat Liverpool 3-1, and they had, I don't think Ramos played, but they had Modric, who was 35 or 36 in the midfield.
Is he that old Modric now, yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He's been around for a while. He only went to Real when he was about 25. And in his first season, he was voted the worst signing in La Liga.
Right.
And now he's 35 and he's still bossing the midfield with Cruz in it.
Yeah.
And this age thing is just so stupid when people are praising Zlatan for being able to still score goals when he's almost 40.
Yeah.
And yet we're calling players done and washed up in their 30.
33.
Yeah, not even 32 or 33 now. It's not once you get past 29, you're basically useless to the club now. It's probably because people play too much FIFA.
Yeah. Good point, mate. Good point. Where do you stand with the back four, Dillon? What do you think of United's back four?
I think Ollie is absolutely right with his back four. Maybe if Dalot comes back, maybe Dalot for Bissaka, but besides that, with what he has now, I don't think he can do much. I haven't seen enough of Tuanzebe to say that he should definitively start over one of the centre backs, but from his PSG game, he definitely should. But in some other games, he's had a few clangers here and there.
Yeah.
But Bailey is a definite no. But Lindelof,
would you say that about Bailey?
He's just not not good enough as a footballer. As a defender, he's also pretty erratic, and his positioning is. You yourself put a few threats out on Bailey after his Aston Villa game, where he was being praised for making that goal-saving block.
Yeah.
But he made the block because of a mistake that he made earlier because of his positioning. So maybe if Lindelof was playing that, and Lindelof makes a lot of interceptions, if you realize, Lindelof could have just intercepted it and we wouldn't have to have that goal-saving block. Yeah. It's all about, they just have different strengths and weaknesses. Bailey's a lot more athletic than probably Maguire or Lindelof, but Lindelof is a miles better footballer, and he's definitely better with his positioning, and he's less rash and less injury prone. And when you're trying to make a team, the spine of the team is really important. And if you have an injury prone centre back or midfielder, you just can't build the partnership properly. And a lot of your centre back partnership is down to understanding and how well you get your partner, where he likes to be, and what positions he likes to take up. So even if Eric Bailly was as good as Van Dijk with his injury record, I still wouldn't want him in our team.
Yeah, his injury record's poor, isn't it?
And Maguire, although he gets a lot of stick for his 80 million price tag, and I really don't like Harry Maguire after the money you spent on him.
Yeah.
He's just a decent to good centre back. He's nothing special. It's not much difference between him and Chris Smalling, like you said. And I don't think we spent 80 million on a centre back where we probably should have only paid 25 to 30 million for.
Yeah, but he is every week and he plays every game.
Yeah, so that probably adds about 10 to 15 million to his value. We still grossly overpaid for him. But one good thing about Maguire is that he's always available, which is basically one of the most important things you need to have when you're building a team.
Yeah.
It's why at first, I thought, although I've always thought Luke Shaw has been an absolutely brilliant left back, but I was concerned at a period of time because of his injury record. Because after his leg break, he was picking up a couple of niggles here and there, but now it seems to have settled down.
Yeah, he seems to have, doesn't he? Yeah.
And if you think about it, right, how good of a player would Luke Shaw be if he hadn't gotten injured? He basically lost 2 years of his development.
He was fantastic at the time. He was absolutely fantastic. I was devastated I was devastated for him, but I was also devastated for the team that he got injured like he did. It was a real singer.
If you look at how quick Luke Shaw is now, and how quick he could have been if he hadn't been injured, he almost had to have his leg amputated, if I recall correctly. And Luke Shaw is just brilliant. He's just a wonderful footballer. It's like having a midfield player playing for you at left back who fulfills all your left back duties as well.
Yeah, he's a great player. I was a bit surprised that, I'm not saying he's not a top player himself, by the way. I was a bit surprised Chilwell got the nod over Shaw in the England game against Poland.
I don't think Chilwell's a decent left back, but I don't think he can hold a candle to Luke Shaw. He's one of the few players in our team where you can genuinely say is world class. And as good as Chilwell is, he isn't in that bracket of players with Luke Shaw and possibly the Andy Robertsons and Alphonso Davies.
He's right up there, isn't he?
As a left back, I think he's better than Andy Robertson. This season, Alphonso Davies isn't really having a brilliant season. So, and you can tell how good Luke Shaw is that every single time he plays against the supposed top left back, you notice him instead of the other left back. Like against Liverpool, I don't think we heard anything about Andy Robertson. It was just all the commentator was doing was raving about Luke Shaw. Yeah. And there are still people who criticize his defensive positioning now. And there's still quite a few people who want Telles over him. And if you see people's lineup, their preferred lineup or lineup for next season, quite a few of them still do have Telles at left back.
Telles at left back, yeah.
And as you said, Telles is a decent player, but
Luke Shaw's
it's like it's like comparing just a regular right back from a left back from perhaps like West Ham, like Aaron Cresswell. It's like comparing.
I like Cresswell. I think he's a really good player.
Yeah, he's a good player, but so is Telles. But it's like comparing him to Dennis Irwin or or Maldini or something. You just it's not really fair on the player, but it's just the team he's in and the player he's up against.
At the beginning of the season, I take it you'd have been more than happy to finish. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's put it this way: have we got second place nailed down now for this season?
How many points are we behind Leicester? I mean, in front of Leicester now.
Seven now. I think,
Seven?
isn't it? Yeah. I'll bring it up now. Pretty sure it's 7. Yeah, 63 us and 56 Leicester. So
we've definitely got third place nailed on.
Yeah.
Unless something terrible happens. Second, I'd say we may have to judge after 1 or 2 games, because if I think this is what Ollie may do, but I have a feeling once he knows top 4 is all but secure, he will just bin off the league and go all out for the Europa League. Which I think, I mean, you get second, you get fourth. What much of a difference is there? You're still in the Champions League and you get a higher chance of winning a trophy, maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure whether we can say second is definitively nailed on, but I'm pretty sure we'll get third. And Chelsea also may fall off a bit because they have the Champions League.
They're in the Champions League, aren't they? Yeah.
And I just hope City don't win the Champions League.
Oh, I do as well. I do. So I'll get back to what I was going to say. Then you'd have taken that, would you, at the start of the season? Second. Let's say we do get second and a trophy. Do you think you'd have taken that at the start of the season?
Definitely, but not probably. The way Ollie has done it is made me a bit, has kind of diminished this achievement, because honestly, how many of our wins this season have been lucky? The way that we grasp some wins just out of nowhere, just out of sheer luck. I remember that.
Yeah, go on, carry on.
That Wolves game, where Rashford scored basically the last kick of the game, where Bruno punted a long ball over the top, and his left, and he has no left foot, but his left-footed shot just deflected off, I think, Saiz, the Wolves defender.
Yeah.
And a couple of games where we've relied on just blocks by players or a moment of individual brilliance instead of just playing well as a team. It kind of makes me disappointed. It's a bit like when you do construction. When you're looking to build a skyscraper, you don't look to just go straight for the top first. You look to lay down the good foundations first. If not, the whole building could topple with any slight disruption. Yeah. So that's a bit like what Van Gaal was trying to do, although it may not have looked pretty at first.
Yeah.
While what Ollie is trying to do is just grind out results with no specific style of play or format, and his substitutions at times I just don't understand.
The style of play in the second half yesterday was a lot better.
Yeah, and Fred's goal had a really nice build-up play with, I think, a pass from Fred to Bruno, and then Bruno back. And
three passes by Fred.
yeah, and I think Fred was the most important player in the move, and that's not something you usually say about Fred.
No. He reminded me of Iniesta.
Yeah, and I had actually gotten really upset when Cavani missed the chance, and then suddenly Fred came out of nowhere and kicked the ball into the top of the net, into the roof of the net.
Yeah. I was pleased to see him get a goal. It's about time he scored.
If I was Ollie, I would have fined him every single time he took a shot.
So, are you feeling positive, for hopeful for the start of next season? Do you think we're going to make a better challenge still next season?
No,
don't think so. No.
Not. It depends on the type of players we bring in and the type of players the other teams bring in, more importantly. Because I think as fans, we do two things which make us think our team is a lot better or a lot worse than it is. We either overrate some of the players dramatically, like maybe some youngsters from the youth or something, or we either underrate certain players dramatically as well. Whereas I feel Ollie does the same thing as what many fans do as well.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of fans do not like the centre-back partnership, but we're second in the league with basically playing three forwards who don't track back. So they can't be that bad.
Yeah.
Or like they overrate someone for maybe posting. Yeah, like Bruno gets overrated so much by our fan base because he has perhaps I don't know how many goals and assists he has this season, but it's more about the team performance. And although Sporting have bought a couple of new players, if Bruno really was like one of the best midfielders in the world, they wouldn't be invincible right now at top of the league, even if they spend money on their team. He would have left like a Paul Scholes size hole in their midfield when he left. And we still haven't recovered from it.
That's not a bad point now. I think, funnily enough, somebody only said to me this morning that he thinks Bruno's playing better recently. And if you think about it, apart from he scored a penalty the other night, didn't he? But in open play, I don't think he's scored for a few games now. But ironically, if we were to say that he stopped scoring, since he stopped scoring, I think he's playing better. And yet everybody was raving about it when he was scoring. Do you know what I mean? Yesterday, I thought he had a really good game against Spurs yesterday, but he didn't get a goal on. I don't think he got an assist, did he, yesterday?
No, I thought he was pretty poor in the first half. Yeah. I rewatched it. First half.
Yeah, go on.
The first half, the majority of the team wasn't playing really well, barring maybe Luke Shaw was really good as usual in the first half, but besides that, everyone was either decent or pretty bad.
It was really scrappy the first half, wasn't it? Really scrappy.
I have no idea. Spurs have a couple of really good players. Like, I don't know why Gareth Bale isn't being used. Every single time he came on recently, he looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And without Kane, Spurs just fall apart. I've seen a couple of games of Spurs without Harry Kane, and they look like a relegation side.
Yeah. I watched them against Newcastle last week. Kane played, obviously, last week, but I thought they were poor last week. I wasn't really surprised how poor they were yesterday.
I was much more impressed with Brighton playing against us than Spurs.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And Brighton, besides a couple of players, Brighton don't have the quality of players of Spurs.
No, I agree with you. I'm surprised. I'm surprised how badly it's going. Do you think Mourinho might? Do you think he might be gone in the summer, or do you think they might give him another season? What do you think?
It all depends, because their chairman, that Daniel Levy, he's a really, really savvy businessman. And I think the COVID impact may affect his decision, because to write off, I don't know what Mourinho's on, but I'm quite sure it's a lot of money. Like, just write it off and then hire a new manager, even without the fans in the stadium. I'm not sure he would do it, because they also don't, they're not exactly loaded, as they just finished building their new stadium. So maybe the money around them is a bit tight, and Mourinho may stay for a while more.
Right. Very interesting. Right, okay, mate. I think we might wrap it up there. It's been very interesting, Dillon. I've enjoyed chatting to you. Obviously, you're in Singapore there. I think I can tell it's you're about 8 hours in front of us there, are you?
Well, what time is it now there? I think it's about...
Here in the UK, it's 2:10 in the afternoon.
Yeah, it's 7 hours ahead.
So 9:10 there, is it? What's the COVID situation in Singapore?
It's all right. There was a period of time, and I think it still is, but there was a period of time where Singapore had the highest cases per million people. I'm not sure, but there was a lot of dormitory workers getting infected.
Right.
So we're still in some partial lockdown, but it's a lot of places have been reopened for a while.
Right. Okay. Are they doing a big vaccination program?
Oh yeah. I think in the UK, similar to the way in the UK. I'm not too sure about that, because I can't get the vaccine.
Right. Too young.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, Dillon, it's been really enjoyable. I've enjoyed it. I really have a lot. We'll do it again sometime, mate. Maybe in another few weeks. Let a few more games go by, and let's see how we're doing on perhaps in the Europa League semi-final. We'll probably be playing Roma, so maybe we'll do it again around that time and see how we're getting on in that game. Thanks a lot. I hope everybody's enjoyed that show. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe. Please tell all your friends. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anybody. Keep stum.